Guys, there's a new Honda Pilot, and is it just me, or is Honda really on a roll now when it comes to refreshing their designs? I think this looks so much better than the old one. The old one had that old generation styling, which was a bit maybe overstyled. This looks super solid in my opinion. We're going to talk about the front, side, and rear, and also the interior. I want to point that out, some specific things in the interior here that I really like. So the 2021 was the second best selling year of Honda Pilot in the US with 143,000 units sold. And the best year was actually 2018 with 160,000 Honda Pilots sold. So they have some good motivation to update this car because it's selling pretty well. It is, after all, the biggest SUV the Honda sells here in the US, so it's gonna sell well. So the 2023 has a clean, more of a rugged look to it, and it even comes with a proper off-road trim called the TrailSport. And this gives you proper steel skid plates, a 1-inch lift even. You got tow hooks in the front and the rear, you get all-terrain tires, and with a full spare tire as well. You also have a brand new 285 horsepower 3.5 liter V6 hooked up to a 10-speed automatic transmission, which is also new. So everything about this new Pilot is new, both inside and out. So let's have a look at the design here and compare it to the 2019 up here, which, you know, it doesn't look bad at all. It's a pretty handsome looking design, and it has this flow in the side, which I really like as well, that we don't really have anymore in the new Pilot. But you can see the front end. It has a lot of things going on in the grille. It's like a triple grille here with this chrome piece going into the headlights. It looks pretty cool. And then we have some other chrome pieces going in the bottom, and then we have another section of the grille that sticks down right here, which is blacked out. It's black plastic. And this is pretty clean. The lower part of the previous Pilot is pretty clean, lower half over the front end. Overall, a decent looking design, but it looks more like a minivan that's been lifted, doesn't it? The old version. So the new one, it grows on all dimensions. It's longer, it's wider, it sits a little higher, and the wheelbase is longer as well. And look at the differences here in the philosophy of styling from the old one to the new one. Same kind of feeling that we have in a lot of new Honda products. The Civic, for example. The only one that I think at the moment that Honda kind of missed the mark on is the HR-V. I think the front end graphics of that look very off balance. There's too much going on in too many different places in the front end of the HR-V. But this though, this should not have the same problem because it is the Pilot, it's the big brother. It should be more stately and it should be more restrained when it comes to styling, and I think they did a fantastic job with doing just that in this design. One thing that I would probably change is this mustache that we have on the side. So we have these two black plastic pieces where the air intake comes. I would probably have this in body color and just have a slot right here, and maybe do something about this disconnect from the top part of this piece, and then we have this black separation piece right here. I want to remove this, but this looks like a pretty big break in the overall front graphics. But other than that, I think it's such a good improvement over the previous generation. My favorite Pilot is the proportions of the 2009, and this looks like a modernized 2009 boxy shape. I really like that design. It came out in 2009, and then the Pilot I like the most is the 2012 model, and that is a facelift of the 2009, where they worked a little bit more on the grille to simplify the grille. The 2009 had a pretty complex grille situation, and the 2012 with the facelift, they actually simplified the grille, but they kept the proportions of the 2009. So that is my favorite Pilot up until this point. Right now, I think it's actually the brand new 2023 model. Let's have a look at the side view here. This is pretty interesting too. This looks like a pretty, you know, I wouldn't say boring, but traditional looking SUV looking at it from the side. We do have some styling cues in the line, for example, in the shoulder line that cuts up and then goes up here. I like this design of the previous Pilot. but the front end graphics to me is a little too messy. I do also like the rear end graphics of the previous generation. So it's a clean design in the side, but then you have the front end kind of messing that up a little bit in the previous generation. Now we have the A-pillar. Look at the A-pillar here, starting pretty far forward in the previous generation, and they moved that back a little bit. And they also have more of an angle of the greenhouse. And you also look at this, the C-pillar right here has a brand new treatment. And this is what I'm saying when I feel like the new Pilot is a facelift of the 2009 version, because the 2009 also had a clear separation of a body piece or body colored panel sticking up here, separating these two windows. And I think this overall it makes it look more rugged, and I think it suits the big brother in the SUV lineup. And we also still have a separation of the shoulder line. You can see that the shoulder line goes from the front end corner of the headlights, stretching back, and then continues and fades out in this area, and then starts a little lower, and then continues back into the corner of the taillight. So it's an interesting design, you know, adding a little bit of styling features even to the big brother of the SUVs by having this separation of the shoulder line right there. We have a very clean lower part as well, as you can see right here. I like this plastic cladding. I think it actually suits this design, specifically when you have the TrailSport trim. One detail I always thought about the old generation is that the wheels, they looked way too small in my opinion, and looked like they sat too far in the body. It looked like it skipped leg day, the old generation, but it feels like the new 2023 have solved that problem as well. Looking at it from a rear view, completely new rear end as well. I do like the old rear end. I think this looks very modern and clean, still by 2023 standards, but this looks more rugged and less minivan-like. This looks like a proper SUV. What I would like to do is just smack some off-road tires onto this and make this into a proper off-road beast, because you already have a 1-inch lift, the skid plates and all of that with the TrailSport package, as you can see right here. So adding some beefier tires would turn this into a proper trail machine. But looking at the rear end, we have more of a restrained styling here, and it doesn't have the same kind of dynamics as we have in the previous generation, with these taillights having some dynamic styling to them, going down and different length and so on. Here it looks like the center line is right here, and then the same kind of activity happens above the center line as it does in the lower part. That's what I mean that it looks, when I say that it looks pretty static compared to this one, where most of the volume of the taillight hangs below the key line of the tail end graphics. But I do like this design. I think, as I said, it suits to have a more static design in the big brother, and this looks really good as well. I also love this color, this blue, almost baby blue or sky blue color that we have right here on the TrailSport. You also have these all-terrain tires right here. I wish they were a little bit more aggressive, but that's an easy fix if you really want to take this and turn this into a proper off-road machine. So looking at the interior, last but not least here, this is the old interior, the 2019 interior, which I think looks really good. We have a clear housing for the digital gauge cluster. Nothing wrong with having a digital gauge cluster. As I've said before, I just want to have a clear housing for it and a clear enclosement of this gauge cluster that we have behind the wheel, and not just have a, you know, display slapped on the dash. And this display right here, the infotainment feel integrated pretty much in a pretty good way in the old interior. We have some tactile buttons for the main functions of the car, which I also like, and a simple control for the transmission down here as well. Pretty clean looking design, and this is something that I would not want to change a lot going into the new generation. And the good news is that they didn't change this into making it into, you know, an iPad on the dash. We still have a nice big thick house for the gauge cluster, still digital. It looks like it is a display sitting inside here, and then you have the infotainment system not being as integrated as it was in the previous generation, but it doesn't really bother me having this sticking up like this. It still looks pretty good and clean. This section right here is a lot cleaner than the previous generation, where we have a decade-old design trend of the interiors, where you have this waterfall design, and now we have more of horizontal lines going from one end to the other, creating a more structural or architectural design of the new Pilot interior, which I really like as well. And just look at the quality upgrades on, for example, the air outlet, the air vents, this looks like it could be from the 1995 or something, while this looks like it's been carefully designed with these two chamfers here that we have in this outline and the silhouette of this thing. It looks beautiful, and a good upgrade there as well as the steering wheel, as you can see right here, which is brand new. We now have 3 spokes instead of 4 spokes, which I think gives it a little bit more of a sporty look. So overall, I'm excited for the Honda Pilot. Well done, Honda, and keep doing these type of designs where you clean up your current lineup and make them more stately and more elegant, like we have here in the 2023 Pilot.